Good morning, Vietnam. Hey, this is not a test. This is rock and roll. Time to rock it from the Delta to the DMZ. Is it just me, or does that sound like an Elvis Presley movie? Viva Da Nang, Viva Da Nang. Da Nang me, get a rope out and hang me. Is it a little too early, or is that being a little bit too loud? We are rocking you from the Delta to the DMZ right here on Good Morning Vietnam. Actually, let's see if I can get some hosts up here. We are launching a live Twitter Spaces to talk about the exciting market action in Bitcoin and the Dow Jones today. You can check us out live on the World Crypto Network, where we are currently all alone. Where's the fun in that? Anyway, I just thought I'd turn on the old microphone and put on my NASA sweatshirt here and say hello to all the people that are watching this fun market crash today while the dog barks indiscriminately for no reason. No one is impressed with the dog barking, but she's barking anyway. No one cares. Anyway, we're checking this out live on the World Crypto Network. If you'd like to join us on the World Crypto Network Twitter, you can join us now at Twitter Spaces or on X if that's your thing. Let's see. We can try to invite some people. Let's see. Try to get the guests in here. Hopefully the dog just keeps barking once every few seconds. And that would be great. Anyway, we're checking this out on the World Crypto Network here on the Twitter Spaces. And we were checking out the price of Bitcoin and the price of everything else. As it says here with C-3PO and R2-D2, that's funny. The damage doesn't look as bad from out here, which I don't think it does. But again, we are at $78,000 a Bitcoin, 101 and falling. That's down 5.16% in the last 24 hours, with a high of 82,353, a low of 74,501. That's $1 for 1,281 Satoshis, more than just a little bit on the wrong side of the 1,000 Satoshi barrier. We're, of course, watching the markets this morning as the president has launched tariffs against every country in the world, including those that don't have any people and only have penguins. It's amazing. It turns out, according to some sources, that they picked the countries to tariff based upon who has top-level domain names, perhaps guided by a version of ChatGPT, which instructed them to tariff everyone. And tariff everyone they did. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is currently down 1.81%. Not that bad, considering it was supposed to be a 5% drop. Of course, the day is not yet over. We're still waiting to see. We had an interesting morning this morning. I'm actually glad I slept through it. It was good not to be here for this interesting morning. As Doug B. Landry on Twitter says, this is the timeline of what happened that moved $4 trillion on the market just now. Kevin Haslett gives an unremarkable Fox interview at 8:24 a.m. Eastern Time. Aaron Rupar clipped it, as he does, at 8:33 a.m. Eastern Time and gets not much notice. Delatone misinterprets the tweet at 10:13 a.m. and tweets that the White House is considering a 90-day pause. This is what should happen in a normal scenario. In a normal world where the president doesn't want to destroy the world for fun or just kicks or whatever, you would do a 90-day pause if you had this kind of a negative reaction to from the stock market to your plan. If your goal was actually to get people to move their factories to the United States, I think you'd do more than this. You'd certainly react. Maybe a 90-day pause would be incredibly reasonable. You'd say to yourself, wow, that would give these companies a chance to reconfigure their supply lines. And while certainly you can't build a factory in the United States in 90 days, at least you could make some plans. You could start, right? But they didn't do that. They didn't do the 90-day pause this morning. This was a fake story. The market popped 7 to 10%. Then the White House denied the story. Delatone claims the source is news and linked to Reuters and deletes the original tweet. It turns out that it's quite possible that the source came from, quote, Walter Bloomberg, not Bloomberg Magazine or Bloomberg Internet Terminals, but Walter. And it turns out, thanks to the new Twitter system, that Walter Bloomberg, whoever he is, or they, or whatever, has a blue check mark. So if you look at it really quick and you close one eye, you could say to yourself, Bloomberg. Bloomberg says that Trump is considering a 90-day pause in tariffs, which in any normal scenario is what you'd do. You would pause a horrible policy that's killing the stock market. Instead, that was fake news. The market popped 7 to 10%, incredible, on fake news. And then the market continued crashing. As I've said on Twitter, it's now time for the United States to take advantage of this crisis and switch to the metric system. We do so many negative things during crises like this. They might even declare martial law or overturn the United States government. But instead, we should just switch to the metric system. It's better, it's safer, and we'll never lose another Mars rover because of miscalculation. Yes, switch to the metric system. I'd also say for this crisis, for the United Kingdom, India, and Malta, it's never too late to start driving on the right side of the road. The left side of the road is the wrong side of the road. Perhaps we could get some kind of an agreement. If the United States would switch from the metric system, Britain, Malta, and India would start driving on the right side of the road. Then we could make some real progress with these crises. As Jacob King, Kinge, writes on Twitter, when Bitcoin drops another measly 9% from here, Saylor will officially be at a net loss on all of his Bitcoin purchases. It's over. This puts the Bitcoin at risk of liquidation by shareholders, which will probably cause a death spiral below 20K. Not my opinion, his opinion. Michael Saylor was the #1 loser of the 2000s .com bubble, and it looks like history just might be repeating itself. So as bad as it is that Bitcoin's down and we're all crashing and crying here, it seems like it would be even worse if Michael Saylor got liquidated and the price got dragged through the streets. It's never too late, though. I've also heard that Tesla is in danger of being liquidated if Elon Musk's shares drop below 186 or so. It's quite possible that he could be liquidated and end up not a billionaire, or at the very least, not the richest man in the world. This is a call-in show. We have exactly one person in this space, probably me, and we'll try to keep it going a little bit longer, see if anyone wants to call in. We've generally been banned and shadow banned from Twitter, so it's probably kind of hopeless to try to do something like this in this day and age when you have to pay to play on Twitter, or you have to have sensational titles and thumbnails with your mouth open, etc. But really, I just think, again, the message here, maybe you're watching this later on the replay, is that it's not so bad from out here. The price of Bitcoin is down, the price of the stock market's down, but you still have your health, you still have your life. It's not over yet. If you're over-invested, like I was, of course, perhaps you want to sell some, take some of the pressure off. This way you'd have some money for the future. It's good to hodl, it's good to be strong, but the Bitcoin price, which we love so much and which we say, generally just always goes up. We don't really worry about it. We think you can generally hold your money in it and you can watch it go up and you can sell a little to pay bills here and there and stay alive. That was the previous plan, but the new administration has decided that that plan is no longer valid. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, or perhaps coming too late for this, but you get shook, and you get shook, and then you get shook, and I'm shook. And 77,000 is still a great price for Bitcoin if you bought it at 50 or 10 or below or whatever. So it's not too bad to take some pressure off, as I said in that one article that they wrote about me years ago. Mad Bitcoins is a fan of hodl plus profits. And while I didn't do a good job this time, I believe there was going to be a second bump. I believe that the bull market caused by the halving was not over, but it's the second time in a row that it looks like I've been fooled by that. So there we go. Whoopsie-doo. Probably will get fooled again. I don't know. I'm very bullish about Bitcoin. People say things like Bitcoin's worth $1 million. And I think, why not today? Why not tomorrow? Bitcoin's so great. And then the altcoins, they kind of follow Bitcoin up. At least they usually do. Now we seem to be in a hellish free fall state. Nothing's following anything up. And we're just lucky that Bitcoin is holding on as well as it is so far. Again, we're reporting on the crash today of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the third day in a row for a crash. You might ask yourself, why do these crashes seem to take so long in the modern era? Why are we crashing for 3 days instead of one? It used to take one really big crash and people would start heading for the exits. And by that, I mean the windows. They'd start jumping out. What they did to try to reduce stockbrokers jumping out of windows and to give everyone a chance to get ready and sell is they introduced this concept of circuit breakers into the market. If the Dow or other markets, such as foreign stock markets, go down too much, they pretend that it's a circuit breaker. Obviously, that's a term of art from the electronics age, an electronic era. A circuit breaker stops something. It stops a circuit. And so in this case, it stops the stock market. So instead of having a crash go and go and go and really drain itself out so that the crash is done, they slow the crash down like an old gentleman getting into the bath. And we just kind of sit around and watch it for days now instead of getting it all out in one big crash. I don't know if it's better. I'm sure that their studies show, and the reason they do it is because it gives people a chance to breathe and think, well, maybe I'll sell 30% or I'll sell 50%. Maybe I don't have to sell 100%. Maybe I can see how this goes, or vice versa. If you're buying, you could buy more or buy less. You'd have the option to think about it and to hear about the news and maybe let the news develop. As I said with this morning's false story about the 90-day pause, in many ways, these circuit breakers are designed to give the politicians a chance to do something like a 90-day pause, to do something like maybe say, hey, we didn't explain this very well. We're going to take a time out and we're going to explain it more. Or maybe they could say, we didn't announce our plan to business leaders, so we didn't give them a chance to really reconfigure their supply lines and start building those factories in America, as well as for the American people to get ready to get poor making widgets and building cars and socks and other things that don't cost anything. So much for your high technology jobs and making movies and all the things that America used to do. You're going back to the factories. It's funny to see people fly so hard against Neil Stephenson's great book, Snow Crash, in which the beginning he says, the only things that Americans are really good at anymore are movies, microcode, and delivering pizza. And he might have been right. We might not even be good at code anymore now that the AI does it all. Again, to cover the top story this morning as we head towards the exit of this attempted live space, which is probably muted because we're shadow banned on Twitter and we don't pay them money, and they only show your tweets if you pay them money. So you guys can check this out later and pretend you were here live and pretend you were calling in. Maybe I'll even pretend to take some phone calls here in a minute. Again, to cover what happened this morning, I was asleep, which is probably for the best these days, and we had what we thought might be a reprieve. Everyone said, oh my goodness, the administration is acting like adults and they're realizing how bad this is and they're going to take a break. And everyone said, you can hear my clogged sinuses. You can hear it. You can hear the joy in those clogged sinuses. And what the break was it was a fake announcement that we would take a 90-day pause. Again, to cover this, if you're just getting here, Kevin Haslett gave an interview on Fox. It wasn't great. Aaron Rupar clipped it. That's what he does. This guy named Delatone allegedly misinterpreted what the guy said on Fox and tweeted that the White House is considering a 90-day pause. On the wings of this false tweet, maybe not even intentional, he might have just made a mistake, the market popped 7 to 10%, which is an incredible amount of money. We're talking about the entire Dow Jones, the entire stock market here. Zoom, everybody said, we're getting a reprieve. Somebody could talk to this wonderful gentleman and explain to him that tariffs are a bad idea. All taken away. The White House denied it. Delatone claimed that the news is sourced to Reuters and erases the original tweet. Here's the original tweet from a fellow named Star Walter Bloomberg, who's verified, and it says, Haslett, Trump is considering a 90-day pause in tariffs for all countries except China. I think a lot of this misinformation that happened this morning has to do with this part here. If you cover up the Walter, it looks like Bloomberg, verified, said the information that we want. It's even couched. It says considering. It's not like he's done a 90-day pause yet, but obviously this would be the adult thing to do, the normal thing to do if you cared about the stock market, if you cared about the American people. Instead, we're going long with this one, again, with the idea that we're going to rebuild factories in the United States and you're all going to work for minimum wage building widgets, which is so funny because on Fox News, they've already said this is not going to happen. They expect the factories to be filled with robots. So I don't know what we're doing. Again, it's a crisis. We all know during periods of crisis, people step forward with their pre-prepared, ready-to-go plans, just in the way like we might go to martial law very soon. And I also have a pre-prepared plan. Now that there's a crisis, the United States should take advantage of it and switch to the metric system. It's not too late to do something good with this crisis. Additionally, it would be a great time for the United Kingdom, India, and Malta to switch to driving to the right side of the road. I think if we can standardize just a few more of these outlying non-standard things that we have, if we can streamline this planet, maybe it's not Bitcoin, but maybe if we get rid of the English system, we switch to the metric system, space aliens come down, we get an invitation to the United Federation of Planets, all this economy stuff turns around, we get new investment from space. All we have to do to achieve that new investment, switch to the metric system, start driving on the same side of the road everywhere. I think the plan will just function a lot better. I think it's a good thing to do. I think it'll solve the problem. Again, Jacob King with an E, don't know him. He's verified, doesn't mean anything. But he says, he claims anyway, when Bitcoin drops another measly 9% from here, Saylor will officially be at a net loss on all of his Bitcoin purchases. It's over. He says this puts the Bitcoin at risk of liquidation by shareholders, which could cause a death spiral going below $20,000. Yow. Michael Saylor was the #1 loser of the dot-coms bubble, and it looks like history might be repeating itself. We're checking out the chat. We've got a couple in the chat, so I'm going to say hi, chat. This is a good time if you have a question or a comment in the chat. We're trying to keep this show going, but there's not a lot of action on the Twitter Spaces. I was surprised they even let me run a Twitter Space, given that I don't pay Twitter. So I was worried I was going to have to pay them to get access to do this, but they let me do it. They're just going to have me be ignored and not share it with our 50,000 followers. Just a small aside here while we're talking about that. It's been so tragic as just a normal small person trying to make it in the media here. You get 50,000 followers on YouTube. You're like, oh, I'm doing good. Then YouTube stops showing videos to subscribers and changes the algorithm completely so that subscribers don't matter. Like, oh, not good. You get 50,000 subscribers on Twitter. You're like, oh, I'm doing good. And then Twitter changes it so if you don't pay them a bribe of $10 a month, they don't show your post to anybody. Oh. And the same thing for Facebook. If you have a lot of friends on there, you have to pay them to show your post to the source. So it seems like each one of these internet companies that we, the internet, have allowed to exist and that we built really quickly with advertising in a sloppy manner has turned on us, right? None of these internet companies allow for a true breakthrough of independent talent. What they want is money, and then they'll let you break through just a little bit. In the same way, if you guys remember TikTok, they had a thing in the algorithm where they would make your first 10 videos viral so that you would think you're doing really well, and then you get addicted to the algorithm, to the app, and you keep putting videos out, and you're like, why are they going viral like my first 10? And you don't know, there are no rules. It's not a game, this is just, internet and video games and stuff. It's a thing. So that they designed TikTok to make your first couple videos viral so that you'd get into it. So we're sticking with this. There's a great time to say hello in the chat. Let's see, we got Jack E. Jack says, I still think Bitcoin is doing amazing, and I expect 120K this year. I do think it's possible that the Bitcoin turns around. Again, I am I am saying maybe sell 10%, sell 20%, 30%. Get yourself some coverage if you need it, if you're feeling scared, because this is a major external event. I've been talking to ChatGPT a lot, and she says, hey, it's not your fault. You weren't crazy out there, Bitcoin, Ethereum, some of these altcoins, whatever, right? But the whole market, the whole rules of the game changed on you, right? We've never had a president come into the market and crash it the way that this president has. There's rumors going around that this tariff plan, they decided to do it at 1 o'clock. They worked on it for 3 hours and they launched it at 4 o'clock. They may have felt that they needed to be secretive with this plan. Obviously, if you knew about the tariff plan, as it seems many of our elected representatives did, you could do what they did and sell all of your stock before the bad tariff plan comes out. So just like a Hollywood movie, anybody who's got access to this script could have gone out there and saved their portfolio, made a bunch of money. So it's a big deal, but that's not a reason to escape or to excuse the numbers they used. Allegedly, they'd had this tariff plan from the beginning of the administration, and they'd been working on it since January, and reasonable and responsible people had done the math. Then, for reasons I can't understand, they showed the president multiple choices on which math he could choose. And allegedly, I don't know this, I'm not there, I read the articles like everybody else, one of the sets of these maths, allegedly, was from an intern. The intern allegedly used ChatGPT and came up with the formula they used to make this tariff. There's a couple of things wrong with this. Number one, allegedly, ChatGPT used the top-level domain names list to decide who to tariff or who to tax, if we're going to use more direct language. And they chose to tax some little country, McDonald Island, something that only has penguins and no people. So that's a mess up. They're also saying that the way the formula was created to tax these people with the tariffs was a big mistake, and that it was 4 times higher than it should have been. So if the tariff should have been 10, it was 40. So this is also a huge mistake, and we seem to be not acknowledging this math they're saying and saying whoopsie and pulling it back and giving them the 10% tariff or whatever. We seem to be saying we make no mistakes, which of course you've heard before in Soviet Russia and so forth. Like the government cannot make a mistake. So that's kind of where we are right now on that. We're kind of waiting to see if the president does anything to stop this. Remember, there are 2 sides to that as well. So let's go over this. On one side, allegedly, and I'm doing this to cover my ass, and I'm doing this because I'm not involved, and I read the articles like everyone else, so I repeat what I read. But they say that the reason the president is putting these tariffs on people, there's many reasons. One of them is that he thinks that it's unfair. They're ripping us off. He's going to get us a good deal. The other reason is he believes, and I don't know where this comes from, but he believes that he can bring manufacturing back to the United States. So let's go over this from a company perspective. You build your widgets in blah, blah, blah land, and you're getting a good price, but you could move your factory to the United States. Obviously, it's not easy to move a factory. You have to build walls, you have to build machines, you have to bring all your stuff in, roads, huge expense, right? Huge expense. Now, what kind of tariffs are these? Are these tariffs that stay in for years and years and years, where it's a good idea for me to move my factory to the United States and build my widgets there? Or are these the kind of tariffs that are kind of a threat on the market where he negotiates with the individual countries and the tariffs get less and less and less, probably pretty quickly, right? Because the countries have already said they want to negotiate, they want this over. So if it's a quick tariff game and you move your factory to the United States, you're doomed, right? You just wasted a ton of money. You probably reopen your factory in Indonesia or whatever, start cranking out the widgets. So for most business people, it makes more sense to pay the tariff, to pay the tax, to raise the price on your product because everyone else is going to do it too. So it's not like you'll be alone. And to just wait the tariffs out and see if they drop them. So as far as accomplishing the president's goal of getting any factories or any manufacturing to actually move to the United States, to build new factories, to build new machines, to get new employees, to build new roads, to get new supply lines, all those things, incredibly complicated, can't be done in 4 hours, can't be done in a day. And I don't think it's going to be done at all, right? I think 0 factories are moving to the United States. I think zero companies are changing. So that means there's two things. If he's smart, or if he's smart about being dumb, he could change. He could change and he could change the tariffs and he could drop them, right? So that would be bad for any of the businesses moving factories here. But that seems like what he's going to do. So for most business people, I think they're going to try to wait this out. For the market people as well, they're going to try to wait this out. And that, in a way, is what was so crushing. I'm so glad I was asleep for this 90-day window that they thought they had this morning. This morning, just to go over for you guys, if you've been here, long enough, I've covered it a few times, but they had a major story this morning where a Fox News story was misinterpreted, give the benefit of the doubt, to believe that the White House was considering, not even launching or finalized, but considering a 90-day pause. This 90-day pause tweet, tweeted by a gentleman perhaps with the last name Bloomberg and a verified Twitter account, which used to mean something, launched the markets in an 8% upward spiral. People were saying, this is it. We wrote it out. We thought these tariffs would go away. We thought they'd be short term, and we're right. More importantly, 90-day pause. Maybe somebody smart can get to the president and tell him some stuff and pull his ear and say, hey, don't do this. And maybe they won't even be here in 90 days, right? So this is the market's dream. This is also what you usually do when the market has crashed horribly 3 days in a row and people are talking about the Great Depression and the end of the world and so forth, is you usually say, hold on a sec. Did we cause this? Can we slow this down? What can we do to fix this? That is not being done today. This was based on a false report, a mistaken report, and we are seeing that what's being done instead is that the market is being allowed to continue to crash. The story was withdrawn. The White House denied it. The 7 to 10% went away. The market's still kind of confused because, as you know, a lot of people are out there. They still think that this 90-day pause could be legit. Maybe they didn't see the tweet. Maybe they saw somebody else's tweet. You know how it is with these telephone rumors. Things get started, and Purple Monkey dishwasher, the rumor goes all the way around the internet, and pretty soon we all think that we're getting a 90-day stop. That does not seem what we're getting. According to the president's tweets, he put out an earlier tweet where he said, we're already getting responses from the countries about negotiation. Things are going great. Now, in his normal business and his normal practices from his history, this is a common thing. You threaten someone, they buckle, you come in and pick up the pieces. You get the thing for cheaper, right? Because you threaten them. You knock them off their space, right? They're knocking the entire world off of our platform right now. And in the same way, coming back in to pick up the pieces. But the problem was somebody probably came in at that point and said, Mr. President, nobody's going to build their factory here if you're negotiating these tariffs down. Even negotiating the tariff down with Vietnam, nobody from Vietnam is going to move their factory here now. If you really believe in this insane tariff plan, putting aside charging 4 times too much, putting aside using the top level domain name list as a country list and tariffing the poor penguins, it doesn't seem very thought out. But if it is well thought out, you have to do it for a long time. You can't be fly by night with these tariffs because nobody's going to move a factory here, right? Nobody. Everybody's just going to pay them and hope it goes away. So it's really interesting to see, such a short-term president who really does, I think, love the art of the deal and the negotiation and not really negotiation in a normal way where you have something I want and we exchange things, more of a threatening, violent negotiation where I threaten you and crush you until you give me what I want. And you can see how being a strong person and crushing a weak person would be very satisfying. So in the same way, I think he wanted to do this to these countries, Vietnam, all these other ones, little ones, no offense to Vietnam. But then someone said, no, you can't do that. You got to go long. So now we're in a position where the market's crashed 3 days in a row. Bitcoin prices crashed a little, 5, 10%. Altcoins are crashing horribly, 15, 20, 30%. Awful, awful, awful crashes. But they also go up more. So it could come back. But again, to slow this thing down, you would have wanted to do the 90-day pause. To have this thing go away quickly, you want to negotiate with countries and start making deals. But if you want to build factories in the United States, you have to do this for a long time. This has to become the new normal. So the real question that we're out here all asking as just normal independent people, when will they change their mind? Will they change their mind? Are they capable of changing their mind? Right now, before the 90-day hoax, I was still with the they'll wake up. They'll change their mind. They'll realize how bad this is. You know, I watch West Wing, right? The aide comes running in. Mr. President, the market's crashing the third day in a row. We've got to do something. I'm not sure that's happening. He went golfing this weekend. When the press interviewed him, he talked mainly about his alleged victory at the club championship and what a great round of golf he played. He didn't seem too troubled about your retirement or your Bitcoin or anything. Also, great job, Bitcoiners, electing this guy. But that's okay. They didn't hack the tabulators themselves. But if you're just joining us now, we're covering the false 90-day pause that happened this morning, which caused the market to jump 7 to 10%, then go right back. We're covering the idea that there's two potential goals on these tariffs. You can negotiate country by country, make quick deals, get the economy back on track, and get a bonus, get a benefit where you can say, hey, we got 5% on this. Hey, we got free soda for the soda machine. You know, we got a lot of benefits. We shook down Japan. We got free Nintendo Switches for everybody at the Department of Education. You know, whatever it is, we're going to get some kind of a benefit. You can claim victory. You can end these things quickly. But if you want companies to move their factories to the United States and you're really serious about that, and I have no idea if they're serious about that or if they're crashing the economy on purpose or if they're doing it for fun or if they made a whoopsie, I don't know what their motivations truly are. No one seems to know. But if your motivations are truly to get factories to move to the United States, you have to run these tariffs for a long time. So you have to crush the economy. You have to crush world trade. You have to crush Bitcoin. You have to crush everyone's 401ks, all of your allies. No one's retiring anymore. And America is becoming a third world country, which would be a great place to move those factories. Remember, everyone that works in these crap factories gets crap salaries building products, right? Screwing in screws, things that can be done by robots. These are not smart jobs. It's not the future of America. Not the one we've been promised or the one we planned on or discussed, all the education that we've done. We put you through all this education, what they say, Bob Dylan said something like 20 years of schooling and they put you on the day shift. Look out, kid. You're going to get hit by losers, cheaters, six-gun users, hanging around the theaters, girl by the whirlpools looking for a new fool. Don't follow leaders. Watch the parking meters. But yeah, we're not going to go back to factories and widgets. So yes, politically, we have the short tariffs and we have the long tariffs. So you have to prepare yourself for an option on one of those. It could change at any moment. At any moment, he could decide he doesn't want the factories. He wants to just get a sweet deal with Japan or a sweet deal with China or whatever it's going to be and start making the deals, which would completely betray the factory thing. If you're the CEO out there moving your cement building to the United States and all your big machines, you're going to make your widgets here, a disaster if he drops the tariffs. So as far as other political options, the Senate has combined with the Republicans. There's about 4 or 5 Republicans that came over in the Senate, and they voted to stop the tariff package. Previously, in the past, the United States Senate controlled the purse. They controlled the power of money, the power of taxes and tariffs. They seem to have lost that power. While it's great that the Senate voted to try to get their power back, the House would also have to do so. The difference in the House is far greater than just 1 or 2. In the Senate, it's about maybe 10 or 11. So 10 or 11 Republicans would have to come over from the other side and say, the president's out of control with the tariffs. We're passing a bill to stop this. That seems very unlikely. So that's not going to be a political solution to this. As far as other political solutions, we have the 25th Amendment saying that if the president is incapacitated or mentally unfit, the cabinet used to be of responsible people confirmed by the Senate could move to remove the president and put the vice president in charge. Obviously, we know that the cabinet is made up of maniacs that were confirmed by the Senate, so they're not going to use the 25th Amendment. They're not going to challenge their boss. The vice president would also probably have to be involved in this as he'd become president and so forth. He's also not going to challenge his boss. So removing the boss does not seem to be an option. Even if a flower pot fell on the boss's head, it seems like the vice president would continue the tariffs. Perhaps, again, we go back to short term, we muscle people on, which is really much more in line with what he's done in the past, muscling people, contracts, strong versus the weak, screwing people in business. That's classic Trump. Now, this killing the economy until you move your factories back here so that people can build widgets again, it's hard to say that that makes any sense at all, right? Like I've said, they'd have to hold the tariffs for a long time. We're talking not just a month, we're talking like years. Like you'd have to lock these tariffs in for the entire Trump administration. And then maybe after 2 years of these tariffs, I'd think about moving my factory here. But even then, if he changes his mind at any point, you cancel the factory move. You just pay the fee. So things either go away because they accomplish their goals, seems unlikely. Things go away because they change their strategy and shake down individual countries, make deals. Or things go away because of a change in leadership or a change in opinion like this 90-day stoppage would have been. None of those seem great. None of those seem likely. So I think if we have to go put our predictor hat on here, it seems like the stock market's going to continue to crash until this situation is solved. Until they change their mind on how to approach this, changing from the get the factories in America plan to the let's shake down other countries and make deals plan, which again would take some time. Some of these countries are not going to be shaken down as easily as others. What we might accept for a deal, it might be big, it might be small. We might just say, hey, we'll take 5%, or like they did earlier with the Mexico and Canada tariffs. They said, well, we'll give you the things that we've already agreed to give you. And we said, whoa, that's a good deal. But it turned out that was just temporary. They didn't learn anything from the Mexico-Canada freak out. So now we're having this major freak out. So generally, yes, I think the stock market's going to crash every day until they change their mind on the tariffs. But I don't know that the stock market is motivating them, right? That they are connected. Previously, Trump has been very proud of the stock market, crowing that it was his success, his market. Now it seems like it's his failure, his market. But they're playing this whole double secret probation plan where they think that it's all going to flip over. Like they're gonna torture the market for, I don't know, 100 days. Then people are going to start moving their factories here, and then the market's going to turn around because Americans are working in factories building widgets. It just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. I'm just not sure where it comes in reality. If you're in the chat, you want to explain it to me, that'd be cool. If you want to call in on Twitter Spaces, which used to be a vibrant and popular platform, seems like they've killed it because I don't pay them $10 a month or whatever. You could always chat with us. Otherwise, we're going to probably head towards the end here. We do have a chat. Let's see. Jack E says, will Ethereum ever be fun again? I don't think so. I don't know. Ethereum is very crushing today. The price is down. Everyone's been making fun of it. Remember, Ethereum was one of the first major new altcoins. It was a blockchain for blockchains, led to the creation of NFTs, curio cards. Seemed pretty cool for a while. It was kind of the business blockchain. A lot of people were developing on it. There was a lot of momentum behind it. I don't know where that momentum went, but it's gone now. And while I still hope that Bitcoin comes back and that the altcoins follow Bitcoin back, not hating on the altcoins here, I don't know. I just don't know. And yeah, it's certainly, I think the fun now, sadly, is in making fun of Ethereum. There's been a lot of great memes and a lot of great, like, kicking everybody while they're down, making fun of Ethereum memes. And, it's fun to do that, but I want you to warn, what if Bitcoin's down someday and they're making fun of Bitcoin memes? So it'll come back on you. But we're just doing the chat here, trying to talk to people as there is a crash today. Actually, as I said with the original, with the Star Wars quote, it doesn't look so bad from out here. Remember, you can still go outside. You can still go do things. There was one point I was thinking about, getting a cabin in the woods and getting a Toyota 4Runner and driving up to the cabin and living in the woods and all that. And now I'm thinking, I could drive to the woods in my normal car and go for a walk. That's pretty good. Not so bad. You still got your feet, you still got your breath, you still got your life. Don't give your life up for this. And again, it'll probably blow over. I don't know how, which is the worst. Usually I could say, well, this will happen or that'll happen. Or, like we knew, FTX was going to go down, or the Silk Road was going to go down, and this would be bad. But then after that, we'd be out of it. But this, again, it really seems down to one person. One person needs to make the decision to either negotiate with individual countries, get the tariff deals that way. Oh, that's good. Or negotiate with individual countries. I don't think we're ever going to get the factories to move here. And then that would be a solution, or remove the person from office, or change your mind, do a 90-day pause. Any of these things would have been great. We're not seeing any of those things right now. So we're going to check in one more time with the price of Bitcoin before we go to the end of this show, and I clean up the mess that the dog just left for me. The price of Bitcoin is 77,528, seemingly still dropping. The price is down 5.36% in the last 24 hours, now 5.38. There's a high of 81,938 and a low of 74,501. That's $1 for 1,290 Satoshis, just on the wrong side of the 1,000 Satoshi barrier. Thanks to everybody for joining us. You can still give us a thumbs up down below if you're watching later, or push subscribe if you haven't already. We just wanted to jump on this morning, see how you guys were feeling, tell you that it's not so bad. It's going to be okay. And somehow we're going to get through this, and we'll get out of this, and that I'm here for you. And you can say the comments. I'll try to respond to comments if you guys need some help or have some pressure there. But we'll check in again maybe tomorrow. We'll see how this is going again. Thanks for the 8 or so, 10 people that joined us. Be sure to give us a thumbs up down below. And until next time, bye-bye.